thank you for joining us today, Russell. It's really great to have you with us. I'm looking forward to speaking with you.
Thank you, Emmy. It's brilliant to be here. I've loved our little off-camera pre-chat. So it's great. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you here. So first of all, Russell, then, first question, can you tell us about what it is that you do, please?
Well, yes, absolutely. So first punchy title, yes. Managing Director of The Resilience Coach. However, that's me. I am the resilience coach, essentially. It's what I do pretty much all of the time. Very nicely. A good mate of mine, I just seen it the weekend, Richard, said a few years ago, actually, you're just you all of the time, actually, which was a very nice compliment from a friend. So I am the resilience coach. So I'm a coach and a facilitator. And we'll talk more in a second about how it came about that. And my purpose, and therefore the purpose of the organizations, is one of the dimensions of being resilient. So by the year 2025, I want to positively affect 100,000 people. And right now, I'm up to 44,212-ish, essentially.
Well, it has to be an ish. How are you measuring that exactly?
And you know what? It's brilliant when people start asking that question. So it's really thinking about over the last so the resilience coach is 8 years old. Nine this year.
July, was it?
Yeah. So when we got to 7 years, thinking about this idea of 7 year itch, it was just we sat down and just thought, right, how many people have you sort of facilitated? You do. You've got radio show. You do blogs. You podcasting, and the amount of sessions that you've run because you facilitate around all sorts of different things, coaching clients, and so I'm just going, right, okay, let's just have a bit of a guesstimate, around it. So it's like, yes, you might have had 15, 20 or 150 people that you've seen and go a certain percentage, and the positively effect is my measure for it is actually when I work with a client or there's somebody in a room, when somebody sort of says, I get it, right, or that's finally light bulb moments, realization moments. I get how I can now take this, information in this training session, and I can utilize it in real life, in the workplace. And actually, I can be a better leader or manager with it. So some of those that you see, they don't say anything, but you can see that they're walking away from the session, and you can see that their minds are working. They're talking to themselves, they're nodding to themselves, and I'll just sort of go, yeah, I think we'll put them in the pot as well. Yeah, that's how we measure it, essentially.
Yeah, you can sometimes you can see the cogs turning, can't you?
Totally, yeah, all of the time.
Great feeling. And so why resilience then? To talk us through your background, because obviously it's training, coaching, development, it's been people the whole way through. But I'm really interested to understand how that then went to resilience, because there were lots of other streams where it could have gone.
Yeah, so the very start of it was 1996 in Hong Kong, essentially. So around the world traveling, took a year out. And I was, as many people did, you were teaching in Hong Kong. So I was teaching English language lessons, 4-hour English language lessons to people off the street. And then actually, whilst I was doing that, I'm going, there's some magic happening here. Don't quite know what it is, but there's something magical that's happening. And it was like, a year or two later, a bit of reflections, go, do you know what? When people are having their light bulb moments, that just absolutely just, it was like manna from heaven, gave me a nice warm fuzzy feeling in my gut. So that then morphed into a whole career in learning leadership and organizational development. When I very first came back from traveling, East Light says, I don't want to be a teacher in a school. I think I want to be a trainer. I think that's what it's called, training. And then get asked like, well, what are you qualified in and what do you know? And at the time, it's like nothing and out. So then it was like, took a sales job because you say, oh, you're good with people. But all of the time whilst doing that, it was like, no, I'm going to do the training of the sales with the people that I work with. Went to night school and, did a training qualification and then got training jobs that went into learning development. And then the resilience piece, that came from my last permanent role was at the Co-op Group in Manchester. So not long after I joined, and it's a lovely organisation. I love its values, still sort of connected with it. It was in a bit of a pickle, essentially, is an understatement of the decade. It's just had an enormous black hole in its finances, nothing to do with me. And then all of my internal clients, were the part of the leadership team. So me and a load of others, top 250 people, like leadership development support, and they just literally came to me with their head in their hands and went, Russell, the wall's fallen on our heads. And I went, yeah. I said, so there's this word resilience, and there's this an acronym VUCA, VUCA. And I just went, our solutions, our answers, our approach to that are in there. So I spent a few years using those to support my internal clients to go, this is how we're going to navigate this. And I also knew that with lots of changes, our function was also going to get restructured and there'll be redundancies. And as a result of that, in my whole working career, it was like just that cost moment of, this is like my 6th time we've been made redundant over my whole career. But it's actually, do you know what? The timing feels right for me to go independent. And so then did another coaching qualification, a diploma, and did some navel gazing on who am I? And it's like, do you know what? The only thing I've been talking about for the last few years is resilience. And I am the resilience coach. It's who I am. It's what I do. I believe in it. I think it's, incredibly useful in so many ways. So that's the story, essentially.
Believe in it, and it sounds like you're applying it at that point as well, because going through a redundancy process is one of the toughest times, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, and it was my 6th one, so it was like, the amount of times, you sort of come home and have to talk to missus and go, so, it's happened again, so the whole career, finally, so it took me a while, I'm 52 now, so do the maths, 8 or 9 years of that. It took me a while for it to feel right for me to go independent. It was like there were times in the past you could have tried, but it's actually, the timing just feels right.
And sometimes that comes out of the navel gazing, doesn't it? It comes out of giving yourself the time and opportunity to reflect on, is this right? And what's it? Give your head a wobble, as we say up north. For want of a better phrase.
Yeah,
sometimes you've got to give your head a wobble.
Yes, totally, it does.
And so talk us through, coming out of COVID, a lot of us know what VUCA stands for, but for clarity, you talk us through that resilience and VUCA piece, please, that you went to.
So sort of the whole gamut of what I do, in supporting leaders is how to lead yourself and others well in this full-on crazy mad world that we live in, And for me, all of the information and tips, tools, techniques, and resilience, and all the information and tips, tools, and techniques around VUCA, they're intertwined. There's so much that you can go at in there. So, to start with, VUCA it's like buzzwords, but I'd say to people, I find it a much better way of facing into this sentence of change is constant. So, we say that a lot, you can walk this a change workshop, right? Change is constant, right? We're done. Off you go. So when you unpick the VUCA piece, there's a lot more to go at. So the world we live in is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And nicely, there's VUCA prime, which is the counteract to that. So to counteract that, you need vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. And so when you look behind all of those 8 words, there's just ideas and hints and tips about what that actually means. So the understanding one is that is heavily linked to emotional intelligence. So leaders need to understand that at times they have to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable, and so at the heart of resilience is our attitude. And that goes to our beliefs. So, how are we about our beliefs about ourselves? And that's linked to confidence. So how confident do we feel, in really difficult, challenging situations? So you can, there's just linkages amongst them all about how you sort of play around with those.
Mm. And do you get the sense that within resilience, there's almost an acceptance of not understanding what's going on sometimes? When I was speaking with leaders through COVID, where that's coming from is the best leaders, or the people that were responded best to were those that held their hands up and said, we have no idea what's going on, but we're going to figure it out together. and we're going to keep you safe in the meantime. Is that an element of resilience, knowing that actually everything is up in the air, but we can figure this out?
Yeah, so there's two things there. Absolutely. So I talk a lot about the word optimism as a route to feeling positive, and also it's about how people think about this clarity piece in all the VUCA business ones. So what really helped in terms of optimism, it's absolutely not about, well, it's all a bit crazy, let's just be positive. Please don't do that, okay? Because that just concerns me about toxic positivity. So optimism is grounded in reality. So you're talking to it's like, so how much are you? So the reality of your situation is we haven't got a clue. We just literally don't know. No idea what's going on, how it's going to unfold. So that's our reality. Now, the next bit then is being able to find a way to accept that with good grace. It's like, it's the case of, how do I so comfortable feeling uncomfortable? It's like, absolutely no idea what's going on. But it's like, what do I need to do to feel okay saying that, stating that, feeling that? And it's grounded in reality. But the reality as well is also about the reality of what are my internal skills, experiences, capabilities, behaviors, strengths, attitude, levels of resilience, and what are also the ones of the people around me, their strengths, skills, capabilities, attitude. So part of the reality is going, let's see the size of the challenge, let's accept it, let's talk about it well so that we feel okay about it. And then it's like, let's also understand actually who we are, what we've got, and our strengths and our skills. And then you start to go, do you know what? I'm getting some feelings of hope. I actually feel hopeful that we can face into this. Still haven't got all of the answers, but I'm actually getting hope. And I'm now feeling more positive about it. So I do like people, listening now, people I work with, I talk a lot about, I asked, there's a lot of the time they might come to me and say, so since we last spoke, Russell, God. And I go, and then I will listen. And sometimes I go, so how optimistic do you feel right now? And so they'll sort of go, actually, it's gone out the window. So, right, yes, we absolutely need to talk about that. And they go, yeah, actually, even though I've just laid out all of these things, I'm feeling optimistic. Oh, how come that's the case? Right, let's explore that, And then finally, the clarity piece around the VUCA side is when we're all at sea and we don't know a lot of things, it is actually we need to get clarity on the bare minimum that we do know. Sometimes the clarity that we're going to get is that we know very little, but that's what we're clear on. It's not about suddenly trying to find clarity where it doesn't exist. Sometimes you have to turn around and go, our clarity today is that we have clarity on one thing.
Yeah. You're just going to dig that little bit deeper to find that one nugget.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. And so how much of getting the leaders to get to that position involves, this maybe is clumsy word and I apologise for it, but I'm sort of thinking on the spot, to accept that you don't know what you want to know must take an element of calming the ego.
Yeah, it does.
Especially in a leadership role where it's sort of everybody's looking to you for the answers, and there must be an element of, I'm just going to tell them I don't know. I'm going to have to tell them I don't know, but this is what we do now. And there must be, do you find that becomes part of your work, supporting them to?
Yeah, it all does. So I work with clients on their resilience wheel, and it's on the website, and it's a build upon the resilience work from Robertson Cooper. So it's their work, and I've added a bit to it, And so to get to this thing around ego, there's 7 aspects to the wheel, and we just talk about all those 7 aspects and get the individual to self-assess with themselves on about actually which aspects of my wheel are in a good place and aren't in such a good place. And so you've got many different avenues and routes to where they want to get to. So, one of the dimensions of the being resilient is confidence. Okay. So confident people should be comfortable going, I haven't got a clue, don't know. I can stand in, yes, I know I'm the CEO, but I'm quite comfortable standing in front of the room of 15,000 people on a virtual call and going, yeah, not got an idea on that one. and they're okay with it. And the heart of resilience is our attitude. So, you can actually, support people about what's your underlying beliefs. And the thing with beliefs that fascinates me is the definition of it, of something that we behold to be true without basis in fact. That just fascinates me. I believe this. You go, okay, how come? Let's explore. What's that about? So there's so many different ways in that you can support people to, you can call it show vulnerability, or be okay with saying, I don't know, or understanding actually that their ego is getting in the way of them, being the best version of the leader that they can be, essentially. So yeah, it'll be that. Is it worth just doing a very quick, the 7 aspects of the resilience wheel?
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it, please.
So the heart of it's your attitude, and part of that, and an awful amount of that is your value system, your beliefs. There's having a purpose. So I've talked about my purpose. So I also work with clients around, you might have a life purpose and a leadership purpose. But there might be difference. There's the word confidence. There's the lovely word adaptability, which is about openness to change, but being mindful that openness to change isn't necessarily doing it. I'm open to it, but I'm not necessarily done it. Agile is doing change quickly. So sometimes it's good to support people to understand the nuance between those. And there's good research that those individuals that spend a third of their time working upon their adaptability, so have a personal development plan to work upon it, openness, curiosity, then they get to themselves to thrive. So even though it might be full on crazy, they can go, yeah, but I'm thriving. I'm in a good place, I'm feeling optimistic, So adaptability's got more to it. There's your support network. So the balance of people in your life that support you and may not. Yeah. Then there's meaning. And what I mean by that is it's all about our internal storytelling. So it's literally how we describe our life's events to others. So it's how are you, how's the meeting, how's life, how's work. It's how we describe it. It's noticing how you're describing that and seeing how helpful that is, because every time you answer that question, you instill a memory. It's an opportunity to instill a memory of actually, everything's gone to hell in a handcart and I'm a bad person. It's a memory. Always everything's gone absolutely crazy and I am finding ways to navigate through it is different. So, meaning and energy. And in that one, when I work with clients, that's everything I do around the strengths-based approach. So what's your natural energizers, what you would naturally enjoy doing, and do more of those. So that's the whistle-stop tour of the wheel. And you can go at it from any direction that you want. And they're all interconnected. So when you get one of them into a better place, it has positive impacts upon the others.
Okay. And just going back to that adaptability piece and spending a third of your time on adaptability, what does that mean in practical terms? What could I do tomorrow in terms of to become more adaptable and build that muscle? Are there practical steps?
Yeah, totally. So it's about being open and curious. So literally, you might have a favorite mug, but don't use that one. Use another one. Yeah, it's literally anything and everything that you can think of or doing differently. If there was a particular route that you always take to work, take a different one. Yeah, these you can start small. These simple things. If there's certain items of clothing that you always wear something different. Then it is absolutely about spend time with someone whom your value system is different.
Yes, and that probably comes from your time in Hong Kong. You will have learned loads being in a different culture and having to empathise and understand and learn again and relearn.
Yeah. I've been very lucky to do an awful lot of travelling, and it's true. Travel broadens the mind. So it's any way, shape, or form that you can just challenge yourself to do something slightly different. Start big. It could be you're in a leadership, meeting, or in a meeting, and you've got your agenda, and you say actually you might have noticed actually there's a normal way in which we always do things, and that is also it's good practice to standardize lots of ways in which you do things in business, and at the same time you can turn around and say, do you know what, we always approach this in the same way, so let's find a different way to do this. And it could also be a great opportunity to ask for feedback, because the team may not know it, but the leader could sort of say, is there a particular way in which I approach things that actually we could shift and change? And somebody might put their hand and says, well, you always ask Fred first. And it's like, so why don't you ask Mary, or ask Asif, or ask Bob, And it's like, so there has to be a degree of self-awareness around that. But that is just do anything differently that you normally do, and ask an awful lot more questions, because it's about openness and curiosity. So that's a third of your time working upon your adaptability.
And is that almost like a rewiring exercise?
Yeah,
in terms of that change.
Okay. It's like it's habitual, and then it goes into your reflections about what have you learned from it, because I define resilience from my years of working with it as springing forward with learning. I'm not a fan of this term bounce back, just because there's a risk that we'll face into a challenging situation and go, right, I'll go back now. And I'm going, nah, you can't go back. So I'll really hammer home the message, spring forward with learning. So then there's an opportunity in there of like, when you're going to be working upon your adaptability, your openness and curiosity, then it's also, you need to habitualize how you're reflecting on actually what you're doing differently and what are you learning from it. And it's always about, what are you going to keep doing because it works really well for you? It's not about change for change's sake. We have to make sure that we also feel an internal sense of grounding. So you actually, all of the time, you've got to sort of say, actually, what am I doing that is working well for me in your reflections? And actually, what am I doing that I could probably potentially stop doing? It didn't work well, or actually, what could I do differently? So to be able to spring forward with learning from all of life's experiences, good or not so good, you need to pause, you need to reflect, and you need to re-energize. So everything that we do has an impact upon our energy levels. So how do you re-energize? And sometimes working with leaders, I do notice that sometimes the thing that they do to re-energize often feels like another thing that drains their energy. Which is just, sometimes it is. It's like, I think those that can sort of come a cropper and fall over. So you're highly intelligent, high powered, full on. It's like, I haven't done any specific work with surgeons. I've done a lot of speeches for the Transplantation Society, which is amazing. But surgeons, they have their job that they do, but actually their form of relaxation is to go climb a mountain. Is to push themselves again. And just sometimes you just got to go, I understand why you're doing it. I absolutely understand it's part of you, pushing yourself is part of who you are. However, all I've heard is that you just seem to be pushing yourself in every aspect of your life all of the time in different ways. And I'm concerned that at some stage that's not going to work for you, So, yeah.
Interesting. I like the distinction of you say spring forward with learning.
Yeah, spring forward with learning. Yeah,
because that's one of the things that not that I'm an issue with the word resilience, but it almost, like you say, it conjures that image of almost like a weeble. You fall down, you get back up. You fall down, but you never actually go anywhere. And I really like the concept of anti-fragility. So the more you get hit, the stronger you get, and that spring forward with learning is the same. It's the same concept, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So yeah, I'm want us to just avoid you just need to be resilient, you just need to be positive, you've just got to, it's like, and that's the real challenge with a lot of organizations when they say, and this is the world that I'm in, so can we have a resilience workshop? It's like, so tell me a little bit more about your organization.
Do they sometimes mean, can you get them to just suck it up and crack on?
Yeah, of course they do. That's what they mean the vast majority of the time. Yeah. And it's a real challenge in my own business to go, positively affect 100,000 people. It's like, it's what do you say yes to? What do you say no to? Sometimes consciously go in and go, I absolutely know that this is the request where this is coming from of like, our culture's rubbish, but could we just do a resilience workshop and then throw them back into the fray? There's some of those that I still do in the hope that you just sow enough seeds. And sometimes it works. Sometimes people come back to an organization who went, yeah, you came along, and we're starting to notice that just coming along and doing that wasn't enough.
Okay.
And you go, okay, let's find out what other ways in which we can do this.
Keep digging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally keep digging. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That must be really rewarding from your perspective.
It is. Oh, it is. It really is. And yeah, it goes back to that gorgeous feeling, teaching in Hong Kong, people light bulb moments. And yeah, every week you get the opportunity for somebody says to you, I get it now. Or you just might see it, body language, that they're having one of those, Yeah, and really nicely, last week with a coaching client, just difficult circumstances, got an amazing job. And we're getting towards the end of our session, and I'm thinking, I think I have been of no use at all to this person today. We've been talking for about 90 minutes, coming to the end of the session, and I'm like, I'm going to always ask my question about, so what have you learned? What's your golden nuggets? Any feedback for me? And then they just immediately just suddenly stopped, just as I was leading up to it, and went, oh gosh, I feel so much better. Which was, it's you're not fishing, you're not always wanting to do that. The expectation is that won't always happen. And then it's like, okay, I actually thought you were going to say the opposite of that. So what on earth was it, that happened? And it was, it's those nice usual things of like, it's a different perspective. Actually, I've written all these things down. We talked about this, that was helpful. We talked about this, that was helpful. So yeah, it's incredibly rewarding, Amy. Yes, it really is. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. We work with organisations and go in and do cultural audits. So we're probably either side of your process.
Yeah,
and often the feedback that we get from people is it's nice to be heard. It's great that our organisation's invested in this because they want to understand what our challenges are, and they want to understand what's working well with the culture and what's not working well. And people, even if you don't make an impact, but they feel heard and they know that someone's listened to their challenges and they've got even one nugget, I think it's incredibly powerful.
It is, really is, most definitely.
Brilliant. And so what are you influenced by then, Russell? Is there a book or a podcast or a documentary that you've watched that's impacted you, but also that you might share that could help the leaders that might be listening?
So there's one, Humankind by Rutger Bregman.
It's a great book. It's a great book.
Yes, I've just spotted it. I was looking for it before and I've literally just spotted it. It's just, yes.
Really enjoyed that one. What was it about it for you?
So when people talk about sort of spirituality and faith, my faith is in human beings. So I don't have any religious faith. So my version of a faith is like, generally speaking, when human beings are given options and choices, most of the time they'll make good ones. It feels like that's been tested a lot.
Yeah, fair.
It feels like my faith in humanity is getting battered on occasion, and so I don't quite know why. The Humankind, it's one of those things, the universe sends you stuff. So what I loved about it was just a revisiting on this whole question of like, human beings selfish and horrible, or human beings, are they all right? Are they half nice,
And they're all right.
Yeah, they're all right. And literally just, so hundreds of different examples and stories that also challenging our beliefs, about actually the things that have happened. So loads and loads of experiments that are, out there are saying humans are like this. Mr. Bregman goes through it all and went, that didn't actually happen. That's not true, So I've also got a bit of a thing at the minute around neuromyths, because I know that I've walked over the decades of my career of learning and development. You learn something as a trainer and then you find out years later, go, actually, do you know what? That wasn't really true.
For example, can you share an example with us?
Left brain, right brain. Yeah, it's like you use your whole brain, essentially. That's one of the ones that's on there as well. It's just things like that of like, just be careful, be mindful around actually how the brain works, or just double check it or do some research around it. So Definitely. So yeah, the Humankind book. So the reason why you would pick it up is it restored my faith in humanity, and also there's lots of information around actually how we do work as human beings. So as leaders, you need to know that. So there's hundreds of leadership lessons in there as well about actually how am I going to support my people, to be the best that they can. There's loads of things that are in there.
That is a really good tip. Thank you for sharing that one. And in terms of leaders then themselves, are there leaders, past or present, famous or otherwise, that you particularly admire, whether that's because they're resilient or they've had a great message to share? Does anyone stand out for you?
Yeah. So they're actually they're leaders, line managers that I've had. So there's no particular order. There's Marshall, there's Freya, and there's Karen. Marshall Freeze. Freya, when she's changed her surname, she's got remarried. Oh, Freya, I'm sorry.
But Freya, if you're out there and you're listening, it's you.
Oh, God. And Karen Rushton. So there were three different line managers I had, and all three of them, they absolutely, and Ian Mason as well. Must remember Ian Mason. So they did that, what is like, we say dead simple. They just did that dead simple thing of getting to know me and actually saying, so this is how we enable you to be your best, Russell. It's just such a no-brainer, as well. Oh, I've actually had quite a few. Sue Johnston as well. Yes. At the Co-op group. She was brilliant.
Sounds like you've had a blessed career to be able to reel off.
Indeed. Now, there's been a few not nice ones, but, that's the way that works sometimes.
Yeah, well, often they give you the greatest lessons as well, don't they?
They do. They really do.
What not to do, for want of a better phrase. Brilliant. Well, I've really enjoyed speaking with you, Russell. Thank you for sharing your time and sharing your insights. But before I let you go, can you tell us a little bit about where to find you if people want to, because you've got your own podcast episodes and there's all sorts of resources on the website, isn't there? So where can they find you?
Absolutely. So the website is allthews.theresiliencecoach.co.uk. And yes, series 1 of podcasts is on there about how to build your own personal resilience, and which talks all about the resilience wheel. There's hundreds of blogs on there. And there's also series 2 of how to build a resilient organization from like a human leadership point of view. That's about released as well. So just go on the website. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with us. Just reach out. Just, have a virtual or physical coffee, and let's just chat, essentially.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. It's been really good speaking with you. Really appreciate you making the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Human CEO podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please help us share more leadership content by liking and subscribing. If today's episode got you thinking about unleashing the full potential of your organisation's culture, we've got a great next step for you. Take our free assessment at humanculture.scoreapp.com to see where your organisation stands and discover actionable insights to elevate your workplace culture.